Alright, so hello and welcome. Today we're going to be learning about the top 10 second level spells in D&D, in my opinion, obviously. So remember, take it with a grain of salt, listen to the end, and then disagree with me. So let's get started. Before that, today's video sponsor is myself. Are you a dungeon master that has been frustrated by D&D mass combat rules? Well, worry no longer. I have a solution for you DMs. The squad combat module lets you run mass combat quickly, with massive customization options. Do you like additional D&D supplements that improve the immersion and realism of your games? Want maps for your D&D adventures? Reduce your prep time, improve your games, and become a Patreon member today by clicking the link below in the description to join. And a big shout out to my patrons that make this stuff possible. You get a lot more content, and the link should be in the description below. Okay, so we'll start this list off with number 10, Shadow Blade. Okay, so basically, Shadow Blade is a second level spell. It requires one bonus action, has a range of self, it has verbal and somatic components, okay? Requires concentration and 1 minute duration. From the illusion, there is no attack save and does psychic damage, which is very good. Okay, so it is also only available to sorcerers, warlocks, and wizards. So, what does this allow you to do? Basically, you summon a weapon that does 2d8 plus 5 psychic damage if you have max dex austerity, and you are able to get advantage on every single attack you make with this weapon if it is dim light or darkness, which more often than not it is. You also, this weapon has the finesse, light, and thrown properties, which you can do a whole bunch of random stuff with, and it has a 20-60 range. So that means it has 20 is just regular range and 60 is long range. So if you somehow lose this weapon or you throw it, you can resummon it at the end of your turn. Okay, as a bonus action, will reappear in your hand, which is very handy. In case your weapon gets knocked out of your hand for some inexplicable reason, and you're a warlock hexblade and you don't have hexblade, and you need a weapon, you can get this. Now, this is a very good spell if it is a melee spell build caster kind of thing you're going for. Okay, it allows you to do it basically allows you to do double damage on every weapon attack. So usually a longsword only has 1d8 damage plus 5, so 1d8 plus 5. This lets you have 1d8 plus 5, or sorry, 2d8 plus 5. So that output is double your weapon damage. Okay, it is very good for a second level spell at that point. Also, if you are able to get advantage in dim light and darkness, basically ADV in D&D is like about 25% more chance to hit, which means it's very, very good. Okay. Now, upcasting this spell is not really worth it. You only get another D8 worth of damage for a third and fourth level spell. So you only would ever cast it a third. Don't cast it a fourth. And a fifth and sixth will get you 4. So you burn a fifth. And then when you cast a seventh level or higher, seventh level, you get 5d8. Okay, so basically that's 5 times your weapon damage in theory at seventh level. Although at seventh level you're doing a whole bunch of other stuff that's going to do a lot more damage and be a lot more controlling. So for a second level spell, it is very good on a melee type of build for a spellcaster, which there's not many of, but it is a thing you can do, and that's why it's number 10. Number 8 is Web. Okay, so Web is a second level spell, one action at casting time. It has a 60-foot range and 20-foot cube. It requires verbal, somatic, and material components, but no gold, so there you go. It lasts an hour, does require concentration. It's from Conjuration. It is a dex save, and it restrains a creature. Okay, so basically what this spell does is you target an area of 20 feet, and then it becomes difficult. Basically, you restrain everything in there. They have to make a save or they become restrained. Okay? If they become restrained, they can break free if they use a strength check, which at maximum for a normal human being is 20. So that means they have a plus 5. So they roll a d20 plus 5 against your spell save DC to no longer be restrained. That is very hard to do. Also, the restraint condition gives them no speed, and their attack rolls against creatures, against a creature that is restrained have advantage, and the creature's attack rolls have disadvantage, and also have disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. So, a very good combo you can do with this is if you had a third level fireball, for some reason, and you web someone, you web them. Another thing is they have disadvantage on the dex save. So you cast fireball, they roll disadvantage. Also, your webs are flammable. So, if you, for whatever reason, cast Fireball on the web, you will do the Fireball damage, and then you will do 2d4 damage of fire damage to any creature that starts its turn in the web, burning to death, which is very good. So, if you cast this right, and you cast it right in front of your front line before, so the enemies are restrained, but can be hit, and your party members don't have to go into it because this spell does not differentiate between party members and non-party members. If you restrain enemy creatures, the front line will get advantage on all of their attack rolls and instantly kill them. Combined with, you can also combine this with Firebolt, which is a cantrip, to do damage if the enemy is escaping for whatever reason, and you will do 2d4 damage if they're starting their turn there and not be burned. So, a very useful spell, especially if you're trying to control the battlefield. Very good. And it lasts for an hour in theory, so you could just keep it there. Also, it does, there's a little tidbit here, is the area becomes lightly obscured. So, if for whatever reason you hypothetically took the soccer feet and you try to hide in lightly obscured regions, you can hide in lightly obscured regions from the enemy creature which you are hiding. You can try to hide at least. And that's about it. Skulker is one of those things that if you're playing Theater of the Mind, you don't need it. If you're playing a VTT and your DM is not very experienced on the rule set, you don't need it. It's very hard to use Skulker unless you're on a specific VTT. Your DM knows what he's doing, and he's like, you will not be able to hide. Otherwise, don't take it. But that's why Web is number 9. Number 8 is Vortex Warp, okay? It's a second level spell, obviously. Requires casting time of 1 action, 90 foot. Verbal and somatic components is instantaneous. It's conjuration. It's a con save. And it's a teleportation, okay? So, basically, you can twist the area around a creature and teleport them. Either willingly, if they're a friend, they can willingly fail a saving throw, or if they are an enemy, you can actually move them to an unoccupied space you see within range of 90 feet. And then the chosen space must be on a surface or a liquid that can support the target without having to squeeze. So you can't teleport them midair and make them fall to their deaths, unfortunately. However, you could, in theory, make them on a tree branch, as long as it could support the weight of their time, and then you make it snap for some reason. Now, this is very useful in a variety of circumstances. It's also from Strixhaven, so it is a rather new spell. It allows you to, for example, if you are 90 feet away from your fighter, and you are running away while he is buying you time, you can turn around as an action, instantly grab him 90 foot away, teleport him to 90 feet in front of you, all the way over there, which is 180 feet from where he was at that position, and then he tell him to run. This can save your frontline fighter, and I have used it to save my frontline fighter in specific situations. You can also teleport your frontline fighter, or whoever you want, into a watchtower to kill everyone. As long as you can see it, you can teleport there. You can also, in theory, if the enemy fails their saving throw, teleport them into a dangerous space, as long as they can support their weight. That is the only requirement, and they cannot be squeezing. So if you put them in a tower that's about to be exploded by bombs, that's perfectly legal, because the tower can support their weight at the time, and then you detonate the bombs a second afterwards. That works. There's a variety of things you can do there. Also, it depends on whether your DM will let you do this or not. Mine does. You can teleport yourself. Rules as written, you can't do that because it's another creature. Up to you on what your DM says. You talk with them. Also, when you increase the spell slot above second, you can add 30 foot to the range, which means you can teleport someone from 120 feet. So let's say your fighter is 120 feet away from you. You can grab him and teleport him 120 feet in front of you, and then he would be, from that distance all the way there, would be 240 feet from his current position. Or you can teleport him 120 feet to a different tower, or whatever you need. This is a very good spell. However, it is only available to sorcerers, wizards, and artificers, and I use them as the artificer because it is a very tactical spell. That is why it is number 8. I hope you enjoy it, and you should probably use it. It is also one of the best teleportation spells, in my opinion, for just the sheer range it has. So that's why it is number 8. Number 7 is Invisibility. Obviously, Invisibility would be on here. So it's a second level. Casting time of 1 action, range of touch, so you must touch yourself. Bad person. Your components are basically verbal, somatic, and material components, and your material components do not require gold. It's concentration of 1 hour. It's illusion, no attack save. You become invisible. It's available for the bard, sorcerer, warlock, wizard, circle of the land of grass, which I think is a druid. I could be wrong. Let me know down below. An artificer. Okay, so you become invisible for an hour. There's limitless possibilities. Steal, run across rooftops, do whatever you want. In combat, you have advantage on your first attack roll, and then your invisibility fails. That is what this is. If you target or hit anyone, okay? Or cast a spell. Every level above second, you can add a creature to become invisible, and you can make the whole party become invisible. We have like a 7th level spell or 8th level spell. Even lower. Depends on your party size. Now, the spell has a little bit of a failing. So, depends on how your DM is. If your DM reads the book, he's going to say, you have advantage on stealth checks, that is it. Versus, if you have a DM says you're actually fully invisible, then you're actually fully invisible and can't be seen. It depends on their interpretation. That is how good this spell is. That is why it is number 7. It can either be number 1 or it can be number 10, depending on what your DM says. But either way, advantage on stealth checks is very nice, especially if you're a fighter that has disadvantage on stealth checks. Now you can become normal on those checks. Also, you're invisible, so that's great. And basically, you can do whatever you want, more or less, in theory. That's why it's number 7. Number 6 is Crown of Madness. Okay, so it's a second level spell, casting time of 1 action. It has a 120-foot range from you. Verbal and somatic components, and duration of 1 minute with concentration. Its enchantment is a wisdom save, which is pretty good. The creature becomes charmed. Okay, so why this is very good is because it's on bards, sorcerers, warlocks, wizards, and oathbreaker paladins. So, this is very good because the creature doesn't roll a save when they take damage, only at the end of its turn. So, when the creature becomes charmed, it has jagged things. Basically, they know it's charmed. Now, the target must use its action to attack a creature other than itself you mentally choose, as long as it's near one, or the target can act normally on its turn if you choose no creature, blah, 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 blah. So, it is very good in the fact that if you target an enemy and he's in the center of a whole bunch of other enemies, everyone will attack him and he doesn't have to make a save on it. Most charm spells, you do have to make a save if you are getting constantly attacked. However, this one doesn't, which is very nice of it because, again, most charm spells, you take a hit, you roll a save. You take a hit, you roll a save. This is not so. You also can't shake them out of it, and there's nothing else you can do besides they have to roll the save, which is very good on a Crown of Madness, okay? Also, they have to attack the enemies near them, which charmed creatures don't usually have to do, which is very nice. That is why it is number 6 on this list. It is a very good charming spell. Number 5 is Silence. So it's a second level spell, casting time of 1 action. It has a 120-foot range and a 20-foot sphere. It requires verbal and somatic components, duration of 10 minutes, concentration, illusion, no attack save. It's a control spell, and you can also cast it as a ritual. It's also available for bards, clerics, rangers, circle of the land, desert, I think that's a druid, the undying, and the fathomless. So, for the duration, no sound can be created within or pass through 20-foot radius sphere centered on a point you choose within range. Any creature or object entirely in the sphere is immune to thunder damage, which probably never will come up in your campaigns, but hey, it is a thing, and creatures are deafened while entirely inside it. Casting a spell that includes verbal components is impossible here. All the spells that we have just done require verbal components in some way. Now, if you cast this on a caster, they don't have to make a save. They just can't cast spells for a turn. Which, if you combo this with another spellcaster, can be very nice. Basically, you shut down spellcasters in an area if they require verbal components, which most spells do. Unless there's a hyper-specific enemy that took sorcery points to not do verbal components, But that's outside the scope of this video, and if that happens, well, you're facing a really hard DM. So, being that as it is, let's just say they cannot cast spells anymore. Killing an enemy squad in silence, in a camp, or take out people on watch in silence. So, if you, for example, would want to make sure that nobody can hear you take out the sentries that are guarding an outpost, you cast silence on them, you kill them, and they can't scream as long as you take them out in a turn that's within 20 feet. And nothing else happens, no sound leaves. If you can take out a whole camp, if in theory they're all within 20 feet of each other, and slit their throats and nothing happens, nobody knows anything. You can also sneak around and unlock doors with no noise. This is what my players recently did in the campaign. They casted on a door that required you to jiggle a lock for a while, and no sound came out, so therefore nobody knew that they were doing so. It lasts for 10 minutes, which is a very long time, actually, for a con spell like this, and it just shut down thunder damage in a sphere. So there's that. That would probably never come up. And it's also a ritual. So you could ritual cast it if you took 10 minutes to ritual cast a spell that lasts for 10 minutes. I can't really think of a reason why you would do that, but it is an option if you have ritual caster, or if you're a wizard. But you can't be a wizard and take this anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So that's why silence is number 5. Number 4 is Heat Metal, so we're getting to the good spells now, okay? Heat Metal is a 2nd level spell, casting time of 1 action, 60 foot, verbal, somatic, and material components, but does not require gold. Duration of 1 minute, and requires a concentration. It's a transmutation, no attack save, which is going to be very key in a minute, and does fire damage. You choose something that is metal weapon, a suit of heavy, medium, or metal armor within range, and you turn the object glowing hot, and anybody that's in contact with it takes 2d8 fire damage. This is very good because let's just say you're encountering encounter ending. So this is an encounter ending spell. If you're facing a big bad man, if that creature is wearing armor that cannot be taken off, for example, that's something of metal, so let's just say plate, and you cast this item, he gets no save. The spell does 2d8 fire damage and only requires a bonus action on every turn for you to do this. And while he is burning to death in his plate armor that he can't take off for 10 minutes, he has disadvantage on all attack rolls and ability checks while holding the item. He exits the armor. It's permanent, basically. It takes 10 minutes to get the armor off. So in theory, you just burn to death if you have this on. Which is kind of stupid, in my opinion. It, in theory, does take 10 minutes to get out of your... No, not really. If you really wanted to get out of plate armor, you get a damn dagger and you cut yourself out of this thing. You can do it pretty fast. Maybe like a minute or two at max, you are burning to death. So... But D&D rules, 10 minutes to get the armor off, so you're basically dead. And if you do this on a weapon, the creature basically has to either drop the weapon or take the disadvantage. And they have to make a save, Constitution save, to either drop it if they can. Otherwise, they take the disadvantage while they're holding it. So, if you increase the spell level to 3rd or above, it does 1d more damage. However, I don't know if I'd really recommend that. You have better 3rd level spells, and this is going to be doing 2d8 fire damage for a bonus action on your turn, and this can kill pretty much everything that wears any sort of heavy armor. And it has no save, which is ridiculous, and that is why it is number 4. Also, it's available to Druids, Bards, Forge Domain, and the Artificer. Number 3 is Prayer of Healing. It is a 2nd level spell, casting time of 10 minutes, which is going to be important in a minute. A range of 30 feet, only requires verbal components, instantaneous duration, which means as soon as you cast it, it does its effect. School of Evocation, there is no attack save, it's a healing, and it is only available to the cleric. So, you choose 6 creatures within range, and you heal them for 2d8 plus 5 each, or your ability modifier, and if you're a life cleric, that's even more. It's like 2d8 plus 7 all the way up to 2d8 plus 10, I think, in theory. It does not affect undead or constructs. Big whoop. So, you heal 2d8 plus 5 for 6 creatures. Okay? That is an insane amount of healing. That's 12d8 plus... my math skills are failing me, but 30. That's stupid for a 2nd level spell. Now, It is one of the best healing spells for second level, bar none. On the healing amount it can provide to 6 creatures. And if you still get at higher levels, if you got 6 creatures, so if you do it again at third level for 1d8 more for everyone, it's still amazing. And it requires 10 minutes. That is the problem. So, if you are not in combat, a very good healing spell indeed, and you should do it as much as you can if your party can survive the encounter. If they can't, it's a little bit of a problem. But then again, I would always have this as a cleric, especially a life cleric, because my god, the healing you can do with the spell is kind of stupid, but also very nice. And it has a range of 30 feet, and it's 6 creatures, which all means is very good. So, that is why it is number 3, best healing spell for second level in the game. Number 2 is Spike Growth, alright? So Spike Growth is a second level spell, casting time of 1 action, has a range of 150 feet with a 20-foot sphere, requires verbal, somatic, and material components, requires you 10 minutes, and requires you to have concentration, transmutation spell from the School of Transmutation, no attack save, and it's a control spell. It's only available to the Druids, Rangers, Nature Domain, Circle of the Land, Arctic, Circle of the Land, Mountain, and the Genie. So, what does this spell do? Alright, so you make a 20-foot sphere of difficult terrain that will slow the enemy down. If they move through it at a 5-foot travel, they will take 2d4 damage for every 5 foot they travel. That's very good. If an enemy runs through this entire field, you will do 8d4 damage to it, which is a lot of damage for a second level spell. It lasts 10 minutes, which is a good thing, so you can hold off enemy pursuers. Let's just say you cast it behind you, they're pursuing you, they're either going to eat 8d4 damage, or they're going to wait for it. You can also camouflage it if you have time to ambush someone. And they can't see it unless they make a perception check, so let's just say you're going to ambush people on a road, they don't see it, they walk into it, they're like, ow, everything hurts, and then you trigger your surprise round and kill them all. That is a thing, and they have to beat your spell save to see it. As I stated, ambushing, preparing the field is a very good way to funnel enemies into an area. So in theory, if you had like 2 druids, or a druid and a ranger, you cast this and funnel the enemy into a specific point that you need them to go in, or delay them in different areas. It is a very, very, very good second level spell for not only delaying enemy action, it also does massive damage for its spell if they move through it, and also there is no save if they move through it, they just take the damage, which is very nice. And that is why it is a second best spell for second level. And number 1 is Pass Without Trace. I don't think anybody's surprised here. The second level, casts time of 1 action, range of self, verbal, somatic, and material components, lasts for an hour, does require concentration. School of Aberration, there is no save, and it's a buff spell. Okay? It basically gives you and everyone around you within 30 feet of you a plus 10 to their stealth check and can't be tracked except by magical means. It's like scrying. A creature that receives this bonus leaves behind no tracks or no other trace of passages, which basically means normal people can't find you. If they have a tracking dog, can't be tracked. No tracks, no nothing. If they have magic or something else, then yeah. Now, this is the only spell in the game that adds a plus 10 to a skill check. It is one of the best skills to receive a plus 10 in the game because it is stealth. It lasts for an entire hour. There is no limit on the people this can affect in theory if you stacked bodies on top of each other in a 30-foot radius of you. If you had to make like people be moving, then yeah, it does, 30-foot radius around you, which is a few squares. Like it's like 8 or 12 squares. My math is bad. But again, your entire party can benefit from this, so that's what matters. It's only available to the Druid, the Ranger, the Trickery Domain, and the Circle of Life, or Circle of the Land Grassland. This is a lot easier for a Druid to pick up than a Ranger, but a Ranger can definitely get it, and it will be very good on a Ranger, and that's why Rangers take... This is why Rangers are good in a party, is for this damn spell. If they couldn't have access to this spell, Rangers would be even more shittier than they already are. But having a plus 10 is ridiculous. That's like having double advantage, because advantage usually translates to 25% or plus 5. It's like double that. So in theory, if a fighter rolled a disadvantage and they rolled a 5 and a 6, they take the 5 and they add the 10 to it, and that means a 15 on their stealth. You can see why this is very good. And that's pretty much it for second level spells. Patch Without Trace, in my opinion, best spell in second level, and you really can't disagree with it for the amount of ability increase that it gives you. So, with that out of the way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to check out the first level spells, in my opinion, click up there. There should be a link to the first level spell. Otherwise, you can check out my Patreon and support me there. Otherwise, you people have a nice day.